Hello everybody, this is Simon Holden for Holden Sources, and today I have a very special one-off video which I do occasionally on this channel. And before I start, if you're not a member of Holden Sources, make your way to Holden Sources on YouTube and subscribe. It's free. Hit that notification bell, and also in the description box, why not click the HFC Club email and you will get a free email with horse racing tips and all sorts of bonuses every single day from me, Simon Holden. So that's the housekeeping out of the way. So why am I doing this very special one-off video? I'll tell you why. Because a very special opportunity has arisen where two mighty sporting events happen on the same weekend. That's this weekend, the 24th, the 25th and the 26th of August. That is the date for the Ryder Cup, the greatest team event in golf, one of the greatest team events in sport. And on Saturday night, this weekend, at Tottenham Hotspur football ground, we have the world heavyweight clash between these two. On my left, or is it the right? I think you'll realize which two I mean. Alexander Usyk and AJ. Right. What's the significance? Well, for a start, it's a fantastic sporting weekend to have two mighty events played out on the same weekend. But even more significant, I think there is a bet, a double. In fact, I'm having my biggest ever sports bet double this weekend, and I've got angles on both events, which I'm going to share with you. And I'm going to call this, look away flag wavers, the unpatriotic sports double of the century. You see, it is with a heavy heart I say I believe the American team at Whistling Straits will win back the Ryder Cup. And on Saturday night at Tottenham Hotspur football ground, I believe Alexander Usyk will dethrone Anthony Joshua and make himself the world heavyweight champion. Right, unpopular positions, possibly, but let me tell you why. Now, in this book, The Betting Blueprint, still available at Amazon, you'll be surprised to know, I detail why betting is very difficult to do when you have an emotional attachment and emotional involvement, which is why I urge both in the book and in my channel, if you are involved with a football team, if you're involved with a soccer team, a baseball team, whatever you want to do, a cricket county, a country, whatever, be very careful about betting on a match, on a season, on a title that they are involved in, because that emotion, that desire for something to happen may well cloud your judgment and lead you to the opposite of where you need to be. Now, the where you need to be is the platform marked profit. But if emotion controls you and a desire for what you want to happen, that becomes stronger from your realization of what should happen, then you ain't going to be anywhere near the platform marked profit. Now, betting requires a cool head, and it requires what you think will happen, not what you want to happen. So if you learn one thing from this video, whatever happens this weekend, it's that. Be very careful about betting on things where you have an emotional attachment. I see it all the time in political betting. I see it all the time in people betting on their own soccer team, betting on their own rugby team, what have you. So I've taken a very cold, dispassionate stance on this. And I'll tell you why I believe this is an incredible double that pays at the time of recording. Best price is 4.2 to 1 if these two things happen. Let's start with the golf, then we'll move on to the boxing, and then I'll tell you why I think it needs to be done as a double. Right, the American team need to reclaim the Ryder Cup after being beaten thoroughly 3 years ago. Of course, this is biannual, but with COVID, it has been delayed. It's played at Whistling Straits in America. And I believe there are parallels in this Ryder Cup with the American team who won at Hazeltine, beating Nick Faldo's European team so convincingly. Now, that time the Europeans lost, and they all blamed the captain, Nick Faldo. However, he couldn't take the shots for them. I believe he became the scapegoat for that. I believe the reason why the Americans won was because Hazeltine was set up to suit their power players, and because so many of the European players arrived there out of form and maybe looking for that excuse. This year, as we arrive at Whistling Straits, that will be packed with American fans. And let's not convince ourselves that that may not have an effect, that we will not have that same European base, that flag waving, passionate group there to roar the Europeans on. Now, as I say, as a proud European, well, proud Brit, I would love nothing more than the Europeans to retain the Ryder Cup. But I think they're going to struggle. And I think at 8-15, the American team, chock full of stars. We've got Jordan Spieth. We've got Patrick Cantlay, who comes here as the #1 informed player in the world. We've got the terrible, terrible twosome of Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka. We've got DJ, Dustin Johnson, one of the biggest hitters, a man who should have won a major at this track, but for a last gasp gaff that cost him. We've got JT, Justin Thomas, pictured here. We have Xander Schauffele, the newly crowned Olympic champion. And we've got several others. And what I see is a team of power players, a team of stars. If they get on a roll, I think it could be a very bleak 3 days for Team Europe. Now, the counter argument is, of course, that the European team has always been the better team, and the better team beats the better group of individuals, has been the say-so. But when we look at this team, whether we like it or not, as Europeans, we see players arriving out of form. We have the world #1, yes, in Johnny Rahm there. He missed the cut last weekend. I'm not reading too much into that. We have the question as to whether one of the top players, Justin Rose, has been left at home. Padraig Harrington, the captain, did not give him one of the picks, which is fair enough. That's his responsibility, but he will live and die by those results. There is the question as to the length of this course, whether it will suit some of our players. We have Tyrrell Hatton, one of our top players. Is this tournament coming 6 months too late for him? He's struggling with form badly and missing cuts. We have Ian Poulter, who hasn't qualified, been given a pick. Does he hit the ball far enough for this track? He missed the cut badly at Wentworth. We have Lee Westwood, who isn't showing the form he was at the start of the year. Now, it may well be that collectively they all find their brilliant form as they come together this week. But I put it to you that I find that less likely than it is that some of them are going to struggle, and there will be no place to hide for the European team. Now, in Paris, the course was set up to suit the Europeans. The fairways were narrowed, the rough was grown up. Here, the Americans, quite understandably, have done the opposite. They've cut that rough down. They've got it as a bomber's course, and we see pure power running through their team. And as I say, I fear, looking at every component, that it's leading up to be an American win. So that's the first leg of our double, 8-15. You may call this the non-patriotic double. I tell you that patriotism doesn't pay the bills. And of course, if you're going to do this double, remember that doing it has no effect on the result at all. You are not stopping the European team from winning by placing this double. You are not. They're not going to whisper in their ear on the first tee, and you're not going to help hold AJ while Usyk waxing and boxes his ears. It is just purely an academic exercise on value. So it's the American flag to be flying on Sunday night at Whistling Straits at the current odds. I believe there's value to be had at 8-15 with them. That's leg one of the Assassins double. You know, patriotism's great. I believe the greatest nation in the world is the donation. And if there's a donation from Bet365, Sky Bet, William Hill, or any of them on Sunday night, then I believe that's the greatest nation in the world. We then head to Tottenham on Saturday night, where I will be in attendance myself to see this fantastic fight between AJ and the undefeated Usyk. Now, Usyk is available at a best price 12-5. Now, that boosts this double to 4.2-1. That's a big outsider in boxing terms. So why am I going with Usyk? Well, of course, he comes here unbeaten. Many people are saying that AJ will be too physically strong for him. But I put it to you that it's the first mistake that many people are making about this fight. For a start, Usyk has bulked up and AJ has actually lost weight. And I think a lot of people who believe this is a David and Goliath fight are going to get one hell of a shock on Saturday night when these two take their dressing gowns off and reveal that there isn't that much difference between them in size. Now, Usyk has, throughout his professional career, solved every problem that has been posed him. He was unbeaten at cruiserweight. His last fight at cruiserweight, of course, he absolutely destroyed Tony Bellew. Tony Bellew, who was a reigning champion, who was coming off the double defeat of David Haye and was flying. Usyk battered him out of the way in 6 or 7 rounds. And then, of course, he went to America, was pretty unconvincing in a very flat display. He then fought Derek Chisora. Now, I think this fight and this performance has been underrated. I think he knew that he was very likely to get a decision, shall we say, and he just played it cagey late on. I think Del Boy Chisora fought very, very well. And let's not forget that Chisora came off a fight against Joseph Parker before that. Joseph Parker, who AJ couldn't stop and gave him plenty to think about. And many people believe that Chisora won that fight. So we've got a slight form line coming out of that fight. I believe that a bulked up Usyk will be much more at it on Saturday night. I think his movement will be incredibly important in him winning this fight. Now, here's the key thing. I believe Usyk knows deep down he will struggle to get a decision at Tottenham on Saturday night. He will struggle in AJ's backyard to get a decision. And I think he knows there's only one way he's going to win this fight, and that is a stoppage. I believe that will bring about an attacking mindset in him. I do think he's going to box and move early on, but I think where people have got this fight wrong is thinking that he's going to come and run away. He cannot do that because he will not get a decision. He's going to have to come and slug it out. Now, Andy Ruiz showed that if you've got fast hands and good movement, you can cause AJ a lot of problems. And of course, he stopped him. Now, we know in the second fight that AJ dethroned him and got the title back. But I put it to you, if you watch the 2 fights and look at the physicality of Andy Ruiz, that a very different person turned up in the second fight. Looked like he'd been sponsored by Donimo Pizzas, didn't it, before that fight? So I'm just going purely on that first fight. I think it was a case, like for so many, that when he won the title, he went off the rails. And I believe AJ had an easy night that night. I think he had an easy night since against Kabrat Pulev. Anyone who thinks this is going to be an easy night really should be employing a psychiatrist, laying on a couch and talking about their childhood, because this is going to be a very, very tough fight. Now, of course, power kills and speed kills. AJ's got them both, but I put it to you that Usyk is a master at avoiding big blows. And also, if he does take punches, he's shown he's got a granite chin. I think AJ's going to be in a lot more trouble than people realize. Everybody was talking about the Tyson Fury fight. In a way, that might have been a better fight for AJ than this. I think he's facing the most mobile heavyweight he's faced. And I think he's facing a guy who can punch with either hand, who will move, and importantly, is not intimidated at any stage by anyone. This guy's unbeaten, and he's turning up fully expecting to win this fight. I put it to you that in a lot of AJ's fights, that is not the case. I think Pulev hardly threw a punch until the fight was over, when he suddenly turned into a tough guy. But I think this is going to be completely different. And at 12-5, I believe it is a huge value play that Usyk will beat AJ. Again, it's not the patriotic call, but it's the call as I see it. We then double it up with the Americans to win the Ryder Cup at 8-15. Now, a lot of English fans, British fans, European fans come Sunday night, if these 2 things have happened, will be feeling very, very glum. But I put it to you is, if you've done this double, you might be feeling slightly less glum than them. Now, at the end of the day, as I say, you have no bearing on the result. If you don't want to do it because you're desperate for the Europeans to win the Ryder Cup, you're desperate for AJ to knock Usyk out, then of course don't do it. Have a great weekend. If you're unsure, just have a small bet on the double. And if the worst comes and these results do happen, you'll have a little sweetener to collect when you look at your bank balance. So that's up to you. But what I would say is I'm going in heavy. I believe this is a great double at value. And that is always what we must chase, value. Not what we want to happen, but what we think is value at the odds. And I think there are reasons to believe that this American powerful team against a European team that may well have the camaraderie, but ask yourself this, can camaraderie turn out of form players into in-form players? I'm not sure it can, especially on a course that's going to be set up for power. And then we come to Usyk, unbeaten, not quite the size differential that people think, and knowing that he has to get a stoppage, because I don't think he's going to get the result, will mean that an aggressive Usyk turns up. And I think in the latter rounds, that's going to give AJ more than enough trouble to think about at those odds. So this is Simon Holden. If you're not a member of Holden Sources, then like and subscribe. Join HFC for a daily email. Have a great weekend, whatever you want to happen. But I believe, and it pains me to say, that it's the unpatriotic double that's going to come up trumps by Sunday night.